It's 8 o'clock. This is the UK Tonight. Coming up, will he or won't he? Westminster waits for Wes Streeting to make his move. The Health Secretary is expected to resign and launch a leadership challenge after a meeting with Sir Keir Starmer this morning that we understand lasted less than 20 minutes. Downing Street says the Prime Minister has full confidence in Mr Streeting amid an uneasy truce brought about by the state opening of Parliament. This, the bizarre scene this morning, the King carrying out his constitutional duty, setting out the agenda of a Prime Minister whose days could well be numbered.
My government is committed to the strength and integrity of the Union of the United Kingdom and will continue to work closely with the devolved governments to deliver for citizens across the whole of the nation.
After the pageantry, back to the politics. The Prime Minister trying to see the funny side as the Conservative leader pulled on the pressure.
It is clear his authority has gone and that he will not be able to deliver what little there is in this King's speech.
In difficult days, her input is always a ray of sunshine.
Also tonight, another party leader under the microscope with Nigel Farage investigated over that £5 million gift from a donor. And health bosses say 6 passengers on the virus-hit cruise ship are leaving hospital on Merseyside to continue their self-isolation at home. Well, Sir Keir Starmer has met ministers and Labour MPs in Parliament this evening, with Wes Streeting expected to launch a leadership challenge tomorrow. The Prime Minister and Health Secretary met in Downing Street this morning, but we understand that those talks lasted less than 20 minutes. And allies of Mr Streeting say he is now preparing to make his move. It's been a bizarre day in Westminster, with the state opening of Parliament leading to something of a truce. No one wanting to drag the King into a political row. But now the pageantry is over, the battle for number 10 can begin. And the Prime Minister has told allies he will stand and fight any challenge. One Cabinet Minister telling Sky News that Sir Keir Starmer has fire in his belly. Our political editor, Beth Rigby, has our first report tonight.
Are you going to resign, Health Secretary?
Yeah,
Wes Streeting, the man who wants to be PM, into number 10 for a showdown with the man currently in the job. In Downing Street for just 16 minutes to meet with Keir Starmer.
What did you say, Mr Streeting?
The meeting short, Streeting's exit swift.
Is the cabinet behind you, Prime Minister?
Soon after, the PM out of the door, clutching the hand of his wife Victoria on their way to the state opening of Parliament and into the political storm. Above the fray, the King and Queen, from Buckingham Palace to the Palace of Westminster, the monarch arriving to lay out Labour's programme for government. But this day of pageantry punctuated by politics, Black Rod's traditional banging on the door of the Commons to summon MPs for the King's speech, was met with a joke at the expense of Manchester's mayor.
Not now, Andy.
Burnham desperate to get back to the Commons in time for any leadership race.
Black Rod!
Gallows humour from Labour MPs. Their leader put in on a brave face, making pleasantries with his opposite number, Kemi Badenoch, on the procession to the House of Lords. His rival, Wes Streeting, was less talkative, but he's the man everyone was talking about. With allies of the Health Secretary telling me he is preparing to resign from government to try to trigger a leadership race. His cabinet colleague unimpressed.
Do you feel angry with him?
I don't think, in my view, this is the moment for a leadership challenge. I think we should back the Prime Minister, and I will remain of that view. And I would say to my colleagues, think about what really matters for the future of the country. And we're less than 2 years in. Less than 2 years in. We've made a start. We've got a lot more to do. Let's get on with the task.
The King's speech delivered MPs back to the Commons to debate its content, but Badenoch play into the difficult politics of the front bench too.
But then I suppose the Health Secretary has been a bit distracted lately, hasn't he? Yeah, hasn't he? Yeah. He's chuntering now. Why don't you just do your your job. Do your job. Even worse, Mr. Speaker, is what isn't in the gracious speech. There's no point in him giving me dirty looks. We all know what he's been up to.
The Prime Minister trying very hard to get on with the day job.
Mr. Speaker, can I say what a pleasure it is to welcome the gracious speech of His Majesty and the radical agenda of this Labour government that will tear down the status quo that has failed working people and build a stronger, fairer Britain.
But even he had to acknowledge his predicament, making a joke at his own expense as he spoke warmly of backbencher Naz Shah.
Her list of endorsements is truly impressive, reaching well over 100 members. At last, Mr. Speaker, a list that we could all get behind.
The PM there referencing his own list of endorsements, gathering more than 100 names of MPs backing him as the leader. He has a big chunk of cabinet supporters too. But the party's descending into civil war. And on the other side of the ledger, there are over 85 MPs calling for him to go. 4 ministers have quit. And Wes Streeting could be the first cabinet resignation. Number 10 sources tell me they don't think Streeting has the magic number of 81 names to trigger a leadership race. His allies tell me they do. It's very unclear what might unfold. What's more certain is that the chaos continues. It's been a long week for this man, and it shows. Keir Starmer meeting ministers in his parliamentary study tonight, warning of the chaos to come if Streeting succeeds in mounting a leadership challenge. But Starmer can't control what happens next. Beth Rigby, Sky News, Westminster.
Oh, well, our chief political correspondent John Craig joins me now, and as Beth said there, it's been a long week, and you commented it's only Wednesday.
Long way to go, yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Not going to happen between now
I
and
know
the end
what
of
she
the week.
means, though. It does feel like it's been 2 weeks crammed into 3 days. Where we stand tonight, a lot of MPs coming out and saying what they think. Jonathan Brash, Hartlepool MP, he's called for Sir Keir Starmer to go before. That happened after the local elections debacle. But he stood up in the Commons tonight and said it. So it's really gathering pace.
What's happening tonight is the debate on the King's speech. It goes on till 10 o'clock, and then they've got Thursday, and then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and they vote on it next Wednesday. There's always a 5-day debate on it. And Jonathan Brash, yes, Hartlepool MP, stood up in the Commons a short time ago and said this.
People are desperate for hope. And for however difficult it may be for many on these benches to admit, it is now clear to me that this Prime Minister can no longer provide that hope. I do not say it with pleasure, but leadership is not only about knowing when to fight on, it is also about knowing when your authority has ebbed, when trust has frayed, and when it is time to leave the stage.
Yeah, I mean, Jonathan Brash speaking from a place where reform took all seats up for grabs in his area, so he's been quite clear since those local elections.
It was a bad night for Labour in Hartlepool,
yeah, so
not for the first time. That by-election in 2021, when Keir Starmer panicked and said he considered resigning. I mean, Jonathan Brash has got a majority of nearly 7,700. Reform, though, was second there. And what is interesting about the events the last 24 hours or so, when we've been looking at all the rebels who are saying it's time for the PM to go, half of them are from seats. They were elected in 2024, but they're really worried they're going to lose their seat next time, and their seats where reform are challenging.
What sort of number are we up to? Because when I last saw you, John, it was late afternoon yesterday, and we were around the 85 mark, I think, weren't we, for MPs coming out publicly? Where do we sit tonight?
I don't think it's gone up much beyond that, actually, a few perhaps. But incidentally, one or two of the other rebels have been speaking in the House. Ruth Jones, Newport Western, Islwyn famously was represented by Neil Kinnock at one stage. She's spoken. Meanwhile, whilst the debate continues in the chamber, in Parliament, the Prime Minister is fighting back. I mean, he is fighting back. You can't emphasise too strongly. However, lots of people will say he's doomed, he can't survive this, but he's certainly fighting back. And tonight he's had ministers and backbenchers in his room in the Commons. His supporters have been working the tea room, as we call it. That's the members' tea room.
Telling people he's up for it. He's up for any fight that's coming his way.
And the Strangers Bar, even out on the... I went out on the terrace. It's freezing cold out there. It's not really very good weather for trying to persuade people to support you. But the Prime Minister, we're reporting here on Sky News, met with ministers in his study. Well, it's more than a study, it's a big office. I mean, if you're the Prime Minister, you do at least get a big office. And urged him not to plunge the party into chaos with a leadership challenge. And a challenge tomorrow would 100% do that. And it's also... he's been obviously trying to rally MPs behind him because, as I just said, the numbers are not shooting up anymore. I mean, they got to sort of 80, 85, 87 or so, but there's not that many more coming out public. A few have today. And I spoke to one grandee, Labour grandee in the Lords, who's seen it all before, said, I predict the Prime Minister's going to survive all this. And the reason he gave was because there's no consensus about who should succeed Sir Keir Starmer. If you think back to previous elections, obviously the Blair and then Brown was the obvious successor, and there have been other occasions when there's been more obvious who's going to succeed the current leader. But, I mean, Streeting, we know, is going to go tomorrow. A lot of MPs are saying, why hasn't the Prime Minister sacked him yet? Because Tory MPs have been saying to me over in Parliament, Kemi would have sacked him by now, because remember, she sacked Robert Jenrick very quickly before he could jump ship to reform.
So why hasn't he sacked him?
It's weird. I mean, Number 10 actually came out with the bizarre statement at lunchtime, at the briefing, that Sir Keir Starmer had full confidence in Wes Streeting. Peculiar.
What was said in those 20 minutes in Downing Street this morning? It
was a short meeting, and I was told by one of the whips were predicting that the Prime Minister would say to him, stop briefing against me. I'm not briefing against you. And that would be the end of the meeting. And it was very short. And what was interesting, are you a student of body language?
Yes.
Because I mean, we had bucket loads of it today in the chamber. Streeting, he was trying desperately not to get involved in any conversations with people. At one point, he stood by the Speaker's chair. At one point, what I particularly thought was interesting was when the MPs all got up to leave the Commons chamber to go over to the House of Lords. James cleverly, mischievous so-and-so that he is.
He's trying to give him a bit of a ribbing.
He was clearly saying, come on, Wes, what are you up to, you know? But Wes was just all like that, a bit like the Morecambe and Wise grin, you know. And he clearly wasn't going to get involved. He was sat on the front bench later next to, in between two real... Starmer loyalists, Bridget Phillipson and Pat McFadden.
Quite close to the PM as well.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, we heard the taunts in Beth's report from Kemi Badenoch. So did Ed Davey and lots of Tories, really. And it was. I mean, this is it. This meaty document here is what they're supposed to be discussing. But all eyes were on Wes Streeting throughout. And anyway, as I say, after he left the chamber, Sir Keir went back to his office and really tried to rally MPs ahead of what is expected to be a pretty important day tomorrow.
Yeah, well, tonight on Cathy Newman's show, we've been hearing from the Transport Secretary, Heidi Alexander. Heidi Alexander telling Sky News that the government needs to get on with delivering for the British people. Cathy actually asked her if she felt sorry for the Prime Minister at the moment.
I don't feel sorry for him, no. I want us to be an effective team. I see someone who is resolute, who recognises, though, that things do need to improve. You know, I don't think anyone, you know, could go through what we went through last Thursday and not recognise that something has to change. I think we've got the capacity to grow as a government. And I think we've got brilliant people sat around the cabinet table. And, you know, I'd like us to have the opportunity to deliver effectively for the British people. And I believe we can do. The government is getting on with the job.
How was Cabinet? How was Cabinet yesterday?
We need cool heads and calm thinking to prevail in this situation. I understand that people are hurting. I'm hurting. I lost control of my council, which we were in charge of for 3 years. But it makes me more determined than ever, Cathy, to deliver the change that people voted for in 2024 at the general election. Yeah. And for me, that's to grow the economy, get good jobs into the town that I represent, sort out public services so that people can see a GP and get to the hospital when they need to. And look, that is what lies at the heart of what this government is all about.
You're not, and I quote, fully on the Andy train now, referring to Andy Burnham.
There is so much nonsense flying around at the moment, Cathy, and I addressed this point yesterday. I haven't spoken to Andy Burnham since the end of January, and the last time I spoke to him was when I was talking to him about our plans to deliver Northern Powerhouse Rail.
So you don't want him back in Parliament then? Because, you know, apparently one of your colleagues has agreed to give up their seat for him. You're not up for that?
So, look, I think Andy is a brilliant colleague. I think he's a very talented politician. You know that it is a matter for the National Executive Committee of the Labour Party.
Yeah, but it's also a matter for your colleagues to decide whether to give up their seat, and apparently someone has.
Well, look, I haven't had those conversations with anyone.
But would you welcome him back in Parliament?
Look, there's a lot.
Would you be pleased to see him?
There's a lot of West Wing fantasy politics that is going on at the moment. I like Andy. I was a Member of Parliament with him when he was a Member of Parliament previously. I've worked closely with him on the plans to deliver Northern Powerhouse Rail, which is dramatically going to improve rail links between the great cities of the north, like Manchester, Liverpool, Leeds, Sheffield.
So would you like him back in Parliament?
So it's not for me to say, Cathy.
You're his colleague and you rate him. Either you want him back or you don't.
I said a couple of weeks ago that, I think that we should have all our best players on the pitch.
Right, and I'd
say that about, any other member of my cabinet, people serving in the cabinet. And so, look, I know you're trying to tempt me into a sort of spiral of personalities and hypotheticals, but I am totally focused on delivering what this government was elected to do.
John, is Andy Burnham in the realm of fantasy politics?
Well, you heard Cathy there talk about this speculation tonight about a seat that might become vacant for Andy Burnham to become the candidate. The one MPs are talking about tonight is Manchester Rusholme, which is represented by an MP called Afzal Khan. It's actually the seat next door to Gorton and Denton, where Labour lost the by-election. Now, Mr Khan had a majority of 8,235. Greens second, and of course Greens won Gorton and Denton. Hannah Spencer was speaking in the Commons tonight. He has said that this evening, a quote that doesn't lead you one way or the other, really. At the last general election, the people of Manchester Rusholme put their trust in me to represent them in Parliament. That's what I'm focused on doing. Well, the speculation is about him tonight. He's always been a Burnham supporter, campaigned for him. He used to be an MEP in the northwest of England. And so we shall see. Now, tomorrow...
Doesn't like him enough to step aside.
Yeah, we'll see tomorrow. Streeting, yes, he's going to run. Andy Burnham, we're not so sure, but if he has twisted Afzal Khan's arm and somebody's dangled a peerage in front of him, that's the way it often works, then he may be able to say, I've got a seat, I hope to contest, and I want to challenge for the Labour leadership as well. As, of course, Cathy and Heidi Alexander were discussing, that what will the National Executive do this time? Will they block him again like they did for Gorton and Denton, or perhaps not this time? That's one of the great unknowns. Another great unknown is whether others will enter the race. Some people are talking up Ed Miliband this evening. Now, Ed Miliband was leader 2010, succeeded Gordon Brown to 2015, when, of course, he lost pretty badly to David Cameron. That was the election when the Tories won a decent majority after being in coalition with the Lib Dems. And he has said previously, oh, I've been leader, I don't want to do it again. But there is a lot of chatter amongst MPs that he might stand, because there are those on what we sometimes call the soft left. It's not a phrase I like particularly, who don't want Wes Streeting. They regard him as a Blairite, right-wing, friend of Peter Mandelson, all sorts of things they hurl at him. And so, I mean, Wes Streeting would almost certainly not get a clear run. There'll be other candidates. Then, of course, if it does come to an election, Sir Keir Starmer would probably have the right to stand, and all the signs are at the moment that he's going to fight to the death to cling on.
Oh, yeah, Heidi Alexander telling Cathy Newman that he's got fire in his belly. We had from Kemi Badenoch today, didn't we, in the Commons. She was taking us through who she thinks will be the runners and riders in any kind of leadership contest. Let's have a look at who she thinks will be in the race.
The starting gun for the Labour leadership contest has been fired. So let's have a look at the runners and riders. We have the former Deputy Prime Minister, Mr. Speaker, former Deputy Prime Minister, who has given up vaping. She's not here. She's given up vaping, but still hasn't paid her taxes. We have the Health Secretary, who accidentally sent his takeover plans to number 10, almost as incompetent as leaving them on the photocopier. And we have, Mr. Speaker, the Mayor of Manchester. The Mayor of Manchester, Mr. Speaker, a self-proclaimed winner who has twice failed to win the Labour leadership, including against the member for Islington North.
Kemi Badenoch's take today. Sir John, when I talk to you, you seem pretty certain that Wes Streeting's going to come out tomorrow and announce that he's challenging Sir Keir Starmer officially. How is that going to play out? What are we looking at tomorrow? Talk us through what's going to unfold in your mind.
Just briefly, Kemi Badenoch there, referring to Andy Burnham's record, stood in 2010, came fourth out of fifth. That was the election that Ed Miliband won. David Miliband was second. Ed Ball's third. Now a bit of a national treasure with his dancing on TV and everything else. And in he beat Diane Abbott, though. In 2015, he lost to Jeremy Corbyn. Tomorrow, yes, Wes Streeting will stand. If he doesn't, he will be accused of being a bottler. But all the signs are, if he wasn't going to stand, he probably would have said so today. It's possible that he might get sacked first thing in the morning. The Prime Minister perhaps didn't want to do it on King's Speech Day. All eyes, I think, really... Well, all eyes will be definitely on Streeting as well, but may well be on Burnham as well. We're less certain what Burnham's going to do, but I'm convinced that Streeting's going to throw his hat in the ring tomorrow. OK, John, we'll be watching that very closely tomorrow morning. You'll follow it all here on Sky News. John Craig, thank you. Still to come on the UK tonight, why Nigel Farage is set to be investigated by the Commons watchdog. Also ahead, 6 passengers from the cruise ship hit by the hantavirus are set to leave hospital. We'll have the details. And we'll take a look back at the King's speech as he set out an agenda of a Prime Minister whose days, as we've been discussing, could be numbered.
What's the best thing about being a Sky News presenter?
Perfect. Let's bring you some breaking news.
Being a Sky News presenter.
I began by asking,
Thank you so much.
trusting us to tell her story. The battle for number 10. Sky News has been given exclusive access. Let me give you a sneak peek. It was the day those present would never forget. Why did you decide to open up and tell your story? Nigel Farage will face an investigation by the Common Standards watchdog over a £5 million gift from a donor. The money was given to him by a Thailand-based British crypto billionaire in early 2024, before he announced that he would stand for Parliament. The Reform leader insists that the money didn't need to be declared because it was for his own personal security and it wasn't a political donation. Sky's deputy political editor Sam Coates explains.
Nigel Farage is potentially facing quite serious trouble. The Parliamentary Commissioner for Standards, effectively the Common Sleaze watchdog, has announced that he is fully investigating the gift that Nigel Farage received, £5 million, just before the 2024 general election from the Thai crypto billionaire Christopher Harborne. Now, this is controversial because the Commons rules say that MPs need to declare all their donations that are made in the 12 months up to them becoming an MP. But Reform UK and Nigel Farage say this isn't a donation, it was a gift given personally with no strings attached from the Thai-based Brit in order to help Nigel Farage with his security. Opposition figures have cried foul, say that Christopher Harborne for years has been a donor to a range of political parties and, well, Nigel Farage is a politician, so how could it not be a donation? Daniel Greenberg will now consider the case. This all matters because the powers that Daniel Greenberg has, if he finds that Nigel Farage has broken the rules and he decides that this is one of the more serious offences that's come before him, is he could suspend Nigel Farage for 10 days or more. If that happens, then the Reform UK leader could be subjected to a recall petition. That means Clacton residents would be invited to sign if they wanted to get rid of him, and if 10% of those residents of Clacton, voters of Clacton, sign that petition, he would be ejected from Parliament. So potentially, the consequences are quite severe, but Reform UK say they've done nothing wrong, they've checked against the rules, they're delighted that they're going to have an opportunity to put this to bed and that there is not an issue. We shall see in the coming weeks.
Now, health officials are saying that 6 people who were on board the cruise ship at the centre of a hantavirus outbreak are set to leave a Merseyside hospital tonight. Oliver Whitfield-Mirchich is here with me because it's expected that they're going to isolate for a further 42 days at home or in suitable accommodation. That's the advice, but they're being trusted to do it at home. That's what we know, right?
Yeah, and just bear in mind that this cruise ship set sail on the 1st of April. Then it got stuck off the coast of Cape Verde, not knowing where they were going to go, then eventually allowed off in Tenerife, come back to the UK, 22 of those passengers self-isolating at Arrow Park. 6 have now been released, but with another 42 days, it means that they're not going to be truly free until the end of June. So it's a 3-month period that these patients will have been sort of self-isolating or on holiday and self-isolating. They've had another negative PCR test. The risk to the public remains low. They've been assessed by clinicians. The UK Health Security Agency keen to stress that none of the cases that have been self-isolating have got any sort of symptoms, and so the risk does remain low. What we're hearing from the European Centre for Disease Prevention and Control, though, is even in the passengers who've been self-isolating, that have been quarantining, there is still a risk that there could be further cases just because hantavirus, the incubation period, is quite long. So very low risk, but the health authorities, not only in the UK, in America, right across Europe, are still keeping a close eye on this.
OK, thank you very much, Oliver. We'll continue to follow that story. But those 6 people who were quarantining after coming off that cruise ship allowed home for the remainder of their quarantine period, as you said, some 40-odd days. Still to come here on the programme, why the King's speech was a little bit awkward on a day of political pantomime. Well, the news that the Health Secretary is apparently set to resign and challenge the Prime Minister was leaked just as the King's speech was about to get underway. The pressure on Sir Keir Starmer hung over the pageantry of the speech as Charles set out the government's agenda for the coming year. Our royal correspondent Laura Bundock has this report.
Why was the King's speech a little awkward? It is a moment of custom and convention and constitutional theatre. A colourful collision where pomp meets politics and the King takes centre stage. With the Queen at his side, he made his way to Parliament. Tradition and pageantry at a time of current political pantomime, which could potentially place the King in an awkward situation, reading a speech from a government in turmoil. There had been conversations between the Palace and Number 10, both sides in regular contact, but no suggestion this day wouldn't go ahead. The King is head of state and this his constitutional role. With the golden backdrop, he delivered the speech. His tone, as ever, deliberately deadpan.
My government is committed to the strength and integrity of the Union of the United Kingdom and will continue to work closely with the devolved governments to deliver for citizens across the whole of the nation.
He reads the words, his government writes them. And although the King wears the crown and the robes, he only has ceremonial power and sits above politics. That's not to say his role doesn't bring him close to tricky political situations, as we saw with the recent state visit to the US. The King addressing Congress and delivering a punch with his politically charged message from our government.
From the depths of the Atlantic to the disastrously melting ice caps of the Arctic, the commitment and expertise of the United States Armed Forces and its allies lie at the heart of NATO.
As he left Parliament, the political debate begins. For all the show, the state opening is a reminder of constitutional continuity, and for the King, maybe a pause to wonder if his audience with the Prime Minister could soon look very different.
Well, let's bring in royal historian Kate Williams now. And Kate, an interesting backdrop for the King's speech today, to say the least. A lot of political drama, but a constitutional duty fulfilled nevertheless. And it has to be a neutral delivery, doesn't it?
Yes, that's the thing, Sarah-Jane. The King is playing his constitutional role here, his extremely significant constitutional role. Above all, he is, or if it is a she, the monarch, is supposed to be above politics, not part of party politics. This is the neutral head of state. That's the whole point of the monarchy here. And therefore, the King, even though he knows when he walked in with the Queen by his side that he's walking into a room in which there is plotting, in which we understand there are WhatsApp groups and all these conversations going on and ringing around and what all the political journalists are telling us. However, his job is to speak for the government in this neutral fashion. It is purely constitutional. However, the very fact that the King sits there in this role that is so historic, opening Parliament, it is also a reminder that Keir Starmer is still the Prime Minister. It is Keir Starmer's government. Keir Starmer's government has created the emphases and within the speech, and that is who the King is speaking to. So the state opening of Parliament is an incredible sight. I mean, the pageantry, the pomp, the history. For me as a history nut, I just can never tire of watching it. But at the same time, it is also so significant constitutionally, and it gives us an insight into the government's future. And also, it really is a moment when all of the discussions, the plotting, whatever has been going on, they stop, because this is Parliament coming together and listening to the King's speech.
Yeah, a moment of respect for, as you said, that constitutional duty and the importance of what is going on. The King, of course, doesn't live in a bubble. And we know that he does like to be kept up to date and aware of what is going on around him. So he will have had some sense of the drama unfolding before and that was about to commence after the King's speech. How does he keep that straight face and keep it together for that? Is he surrounded by people that sort of help him through it?
Well, that is the King's job. It is his job to keep a straight face, to speak for the government, to speak for the Prime Minister, whether he thinks the Prime Minister is going to be in for many years or not many at all. And he learned from the best. He learned from Elizabeth II, who was politically neutral through so many turbulent times, through so many changes of ministers and politics. And above all, you know, the neutrality is there to protect the Constitution, but it's also there to protect the monarchy. If the King was to suggest at any point which Prime Minister he might prefer, if he would say, oh, well, you know, actually, I think it'd be great to have X, you know, this is a disaster for the monarchy and disaster for the Constitution. He has to fulfil the role as he should, and no one must know his secret thoughts, whatever they may be. And certainly we saw a new side to the King, just as you were saying in that report. We saw a new political side to the King. I think many of us were taken aback by the real political, you know, inference, the sort of punch of that political speech, talking about the checks and balances, talking about the importance of NATO, everything from the Royal Navy to the ice caps. Really, you know, the King made some significant political points in very polite language. He did so all the same, but the difference between doing that in the United States, when he's not head of state, he's not a citizen, he's actually there representing the government, representing the Prime Minister, representing our point of view. It's very different from where he is today. He has to read out the speech. If say, the monarchy was to be abolished, the King would have to sit there and read out the speech. And of course, today, he did read out the aspect of abolishing the peers from the House of Lords. There is something quite interesting as a historical moment for me in that the King, who is at the top of, perhaps you might say, the tree of a hierarchy, reads out that point. But this is the moment where whatever is put in front of him as the speech, it is his job to read it out. He's the neutral head of state, and Parliament must come together in respect to the Constitution. And then as soon as it's over, as you say, the discussions about the future can continue, or they will continue.
Kate, can I ask you, would there have been a plan B? We know that before Queen Elizabeth II didn't come to give the speech. In fact, King Charles, then Prince Charles, stood in for her. But the sense seems to have been, keep this drama, keep a lid on this drama until after the King's speech. If they hadn't have been able to do that as a government, and Sir Keir Starmer resigned in a fit of pique, for example, would the King's speech still have been able to go ahead? Would they have had to scramble together to install someone as PM for it to be able to go ahead?
Well, yes, if people have been trying to persuade the Keir Starmer to resign. I think they were pushing him to resign yesterday. He said he would not resign. So simply, if he had resigned, it would have been a question of what you do next. I mean, do we have, you simply have a sort of caretaker government. The speech is going to be the same. The emphases of the government would be the same. These are matters that are sort of in position. So simply we would have had, the Deputy Prime Minister, I think, would have taken over, and that would have been the answer. But that is not the sort of ideal that anyone constitutionally wants. It certainly would be preferable. The King's not going to tell anyone when to resign or when not to resign, but it would have been preferable for him if it is still the same Prime Minister in position who has created that speech with him, because certainly, that is the principle that we're looking here about. We're being told here about what the government's going to do next. And if we had a different Prime Minister, it may be that some changes would be made to that manifesto.
Kate Williams, historian, always a pleasure to talk. Thank you so much for your time this evening. Still to come on the UK Tonight, we'll take a look ahead to what could be a momentous day in Westminster, with Wes Streeting expected to make his move against the Prime Minister tomorrow.
First Minister, how are you?
Good morning. Good morning.
Nice to see you. How are you feeling?
Looking forward to getting into the parliamentary chamber.
Are you any further forward to making a decision?
No, it's an important day today.
All of the claims were in line with my parliamentary duties, so I'm making that clear to you, Conor.
He was a Scot through and through.
He was a very good politician.
Alex Salmond was controversial, he was a disruptor, but above all, he was respected.
Will you resign if you lose this week?
Again, I'm not planning to, of course, lose the vote of no confidence. I'm planning to win that vote of no confidence.
His face said it all.
My intention to stand down as party leader.
This is now a storm with deadly consequences. How are they feeling?
They're a bit scared at the minute.
We've been told to evacuate.
How are you feeling?
Devastated.
Hundreds of homes were wiped out by flooding. I'm Conor Gillis, Sky's Scotland correspondent.
It was probably the darkest time in my life.
Scott is 5 years sober after a cocaine addiction left him close to death. Scotland has a shameful record, worse than England, the worst in Europe.
Why not just say you failed? Because then you might get more respect from families who've lost loved ones.
This is where one of the UK's most prolific rapists thought he'd got away with murder. Sky News can reveal that former sex workers had told police he was sexually violent.
My Emma.
Free wherever you get your news. It's over, isn't it? The Americans say he is Rossi, a fraudster. This has been one of the most bizarre cases ever heard in a courtroom in this country. A dangerous murderer.
Do you think you'll ever be able to forgive Andrew Ennis after this?
Oh, Papa.
She said she can forgive him, but as long as he's behind bars.
By doing the right thing, it's destroyed your life.
They terrorised me. They intimidated me.
I'm so grateful.
Sky News. The full story first.
I saw police being forceful, pushing young men and women to the ground as they made almost 100 arrests. Will the cold affect your voters?
Well, we have a lot of tremendous support.
What country are you
from? The UK.
Okay, we don't give a crap about your opinion and your reporting. Why don't you go back to your country where you have a major migrant problem?
I'm Martha Kellner and I'm Sky's US correspondent based here in Los Angeles.
Well, Westminster is still waiting to see if Wes Streeting will make his move and challenge Sir Keir Starmer's leadership. So, what might happen tomorrow? Former Labour advisor John McTernan joins me now. And John, the word in Westminster is that tomorrow is the day Wes Streeting is going to make his move. What's your take?
Well, he kind of has to, because he's briefed so heavily he's going to do this. But it is a very risky thing to do. The mood in the PLP is for a change, but I think the mood in the PLP is also for a fair choice for the party. And that fair choice includes the candidature of Andy Burnham. So to trigger now will be read by some people as an attempt to block Andy Burnham standing. There's a time lapse between Andy standing for a by-election, getting in, and so I think that's the issue. There's definitely a pressure to resolve this issue, but there's also, I think, another feeling that there should be a choice for the party between somebody who represents the centrist wing of the party and the soft left wing of the party. They're not very different in reality in terms of what they would do and the gifts they bring. But I think it would be right for the party to have a broad choice.
Yeah,
we'll see tomorrow, won't we?
Yeah, it was interesting what you said, that they're not that different. That comparison has been made with Sir Keir Starmer and Wes Streeting in terms of, if you had to choose between the two, they're actually quite similar, and you throw Andy Burnham into the mix. Do you think essentially the Labour Party is going like for like?
Like on one big issue on Gaza, both Andy Burnham outside the House of Commons, he called really quickly for a ceasefire. Inside the government, I know Wes has campaigned really strongly for statehood for Palestine, which has been, now backed by the UK government. And I do think that there are the flaws, the weaknesses of this government, the Starmer government, are, they tried to cut disability benefits from some of the poorest, most disadvantaged in the country. They took winter fuel payments away, having not mentioned it in the manifesto. They resisted for 2 years lifting the two-child cap, which drives children into poverty. They appointed, personally, Keir Starmer personally chose to appoint Peter Mandelson, who was a known friend of a convicted paedophile. So all the issues are when Labour does things which are not Labour at all. And I think Wes is one of the most Labour people I know, as is Andy Burnham. And I think it would be a shame if there was a contest that didn't allow the party the choice. But it's the number 10 that's lost its way. The Labour Party has actually a pretty comprehensive manifesto, a radical manifesto, which, if proudly implemented, could actually be persuasive to the country. It's the fact that the things that the government seems proudest of are the most ridiculous, most vicious, most un-Labour. And I think that's the tension there. And I can see why Wes wants to bring this to a point. But I think I go back to the Labour Party doesn't need simply a new face saying the same things. It needs a new political economy. It needs to be, it needs to be proud of the fact that Ed Miliband has put the government in the right place for a crisis like the one caused by President Trump attacking Iran. That we're in so many parts of the economy, we're positioned really, really well. And I think that again, we have to see what goes to happen tomorrow, and then we see what the National Executive Committee of the Labour Party do, because once somebody has 80 nominations, then there is a leadership contest, but the timetable is in the hand of the NEC. The NEC could decide that they would wait until Andy Burnham became an MP. It's in their hands to make sure this works in the best interest of the Labour Party.
Yeah, for you then, it was more about Labour's message rather than the messenger, because a lot of people did point that out after the local election debacle. Labour should have been talking about the cost of living, immigration. A lot of people saying, where was a lot of that in Sir Keir Starmer's speech after those local election defeats? Instead, talking about Europe and foreign affairs. That's not really landing with,
But it was. I mean, yeah. Look, the speech had at the heart of it a claim. I take responsibility for these results. Well, to take responsibility for something, you have to say what happened, why it happened, and why you won't act like that again. There was nothing of that there. And to be honest, the one thing we need to do about immigration is stop being reform light. Stop bringing in these appalling racist limits to immigration. But we're way on the wrong side of the British public on this, with this idea that we should have 10 years to be a care worker before you can become a British citizen. 10 years on indefinite leave to remain. Some of these things are cruel, and they appear to be chasing voters who don't want us. 2% of Reform voters have said that they'd be willing to think about voting Labour. A third of people who vote Green are willing to vote Labour. It's kind of obvious where the party needs to go. And it was the willful refusal to address the actual message. Last week was a message. The least a leader could do is interpret the message, tell us what it was, and say how he'll respond to it. I mean, we've got a massive majority. We could do what we want. We could move fast on council house building if we wanted to. And we could say that in the next election, we're going to end the triple lock, and that would give us headroom for spending. We could address the fact there's intergenerational unfairness. But if you don't name the problem, you can't solve it. And then otherwise, you just become like a commentator. And that really seems where the government is at the moment, just commenting on events as opposed to...
If that's what you feel Labour need, who do you think is going to come forward and deliver that? At the moment, Wes Streeting tomorrow, Sir Keir Starmer telling his allies that, he's up for the fight. If Wes Streeting wants to come and challenge him, he'll take it on. Who else will enter the fray, do you think? I mean, Andy Burnham, there's a whole other timetable and a lot of complications there. But, of the 400-plus MPs Labour have got, who else will come in, do you think, if anyone?
There's a range of really good MPs. I mean, I think Lou Haig is a talent who's been thrown to the back benches, but she's a great leader. But there's also Ed Miliband, who's a front bencher. And there are many people who can represent the soft left in the government. But I go to this again. The National Executive Committee of the Labour Party is there to look after the future of the Labour Party. It has the ability to make sure there is a contest. There's a contest that allows all voices to be represented. Equally, the Prime Minister, as the leader of the Labour Party, has responsibility as a steward of the party too. And the idea that he will fight and win against Wes Streeting is, what's he fighting for? For more of the same. And remember, what is the same? Keir Starmer got Labour elected, amazing, that was a fantastic landslide, hadn't any plans for what to do in office, which is a bit of a dereliction of duty, and in 2 years has halved the Labour vote. So is that the platform? I'm the man who halved the Labour vote, let me halve it again. I don't understand what that is on that side. And on the other side, we have to wait till tomorrow to see what Wes is going to say, because Wes has a passionate belief in the Labour Party, a passionate belief in bringing together the strands of social democracy and socialism and liberalism that were the founding strands of our party 100 years ago, 125 years ago. So there is Wes is a thinker as well as a communicator, just like Andy Burnham with his Manchesterism. And it's the richness of debate about the ideas, because look, the country's been trying to get change since Brexit. Didn't get it from Brexit. Didn't get it. Did it from Boris Johnson? Didn't get it from the Corbyn surge. That was a absolute demand for change, and the country's not had it yet from Starmer. I think it's too late to say we've only had 2 years. Let's have the change. This is a moment for a discussion in the Labour Party in the best possible terms, most comradely terms, about the types of change and direction that are needed by the country. And Europe is definitely one of them, but there's no point in throwing that in as a kind of this week to try and tell the country that we're doing. You need to have an argument. You need to make the argument for making a change. I think that's what this debate should be all about in the Labour Party, and that's what I hope to see from Wes tomorrow if he declares. Obviously, again, I hope that there's a coordination so we can have a proper debate about the future of the Labour Party. Because if we can't save the Labour Party, we can't beat Nigel Farage's Reform. And Nigel Farage's Reform Party are promising that they will detain, they will imprison in camps 2 million British people and then just deport them. So, big battle.
John, I really appreciate your contribution tonight. John McTernan, their former Labour Party political advisor, on the eve of what could be Wes Streeting's challenge to Sir Keir Starmer's leadership. John, a final thought from you this evening.
John McTernan sounds like a bit of a Wes Streeting fan, doesn't he?
Yeah.
In the last half hour or so, doubts are starting to emerge about whether Andy Burnham really has found a parliamentary seat. Now, I mentioned Manchester Rusholme last time, Afzal Khan. He is being a bit vague and non-committal about whether he is prepared to stand down. Now, another seat is being mentioned, Manchester Withington. The MP there is Jeff Smith, who is a former DJ and nightclub promoter.
OK.
Is he going to dance to Andy Burnham's tune?
And Withington just down the road from Rusholme as well, so he's working in a very tight postcode there.
You perhaps know Manchester a bit better than
I
I
do.
do. Yeah, I know that Rusholme is the one next to Gorton and Denton. As we said earlier, yes, Streeting is going to go. We're not quite so certain about Andy Burnham. He seems to be, he may be struggling to find that parliamentary seat.
OK, John. Right, well, we wait, don't we? Number 10, that's going to be the focus again tomorrow. I would imagine we'll be down there bright and early, John, for any kind of early announcement. Any sort of timings?
No, depending on where Streeting does his launch.
Yeah.
I mean, we political journalists love leadership elections because we get wined and dined and...
Oh, right. I didn't get any of that. I'll be outside that door there, bright and early or mid-afternoon in the rain or whatever. OK, well, whatever happens, we will be ready. John, thank you very much. I'm going to finish the programme tonight with some pictures from Windsor Castle. A face familiar to you if you watch the programme regularly. Online safety campaigner Ellen Room, honoured today. Ellen, we've spoken to her many times here in the UK tonight, is a tireless campaigner for restrictions on social media for under-16s. This is in memory of her 14-year-old son, Jules, who died in 2022. Ellen believes Jules died after an online challenge went wrong. Well, today, Ellen received an MBE for services to children's online safety. And afterwards, she revealed what Prince William said to her.
He asked me whether it was following the loss of my son and that the harms children are seeing online, and if he offered to help in any way he could. Obviously very relevant for him with his children, and children are seeing harmful things online which we need to change. And the government need to step up and do more once this consultation's finished, and I'll be on their case. I didn't do it for this. I did this to make a difference. I don't have any other children I can save, but I can make a difference to the rest of the children in the world. And so whether that's here in the UK, or I quite often go abroad these days, we need to make a difference for everybody. This is a global problem, and we need to step up and really make a difference.
Well, congratulations to Ellen from all of us here on the UK Tonight. That's all from us for this evening. We'll be back tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. Who knows what could have happened by then. Up next, it's Yalda with The World. I'll see you tomorrow.